Hey, thanks to the Monday Movie Club. That woman keeps interrupting me. All right, this week Annie picked Working Girl from 1998, which
88.
just what did I say? 98? 1988, which just happens to be number 791 on the Franken list. So it is one of the 1001 movies I have to watch before I die. So thank you, Annie. You saved me having to watch it 3 years from now.
And you've never seen it, that means.
Oh, he's seen it.
No, please.
The Fox movie.
I'm Frank Gaffney. With us, of course, is Joel Fenster. No change of thing. No,
I'm in a rush, so I
no Working Girl thing. Mark G. Wotitz Gartner, who has a lot of boobs in his picture.
I'll explain.
Gold fuck no Cringer. What happened?
He's right over there on the table.
All right. And Annie King back in her kitchen after her world travels.
Yes. Looking a little worse for wear.
Did you just get home yesterday?
Yes.
All right. Why Working Girl?
Well, in 1988, I had just graduated college and starting out in the workforce. And this was like every girl's dream to work in Manhattan, to have an office with a window and everything. And it was just fun.
Did you wear the sneakers and the socks to go to work?
Yes.
Yeah. I know Amy did. Amy, were you at Fox when this was going on? No.
I started in May of 89.
89. Okay, well, here's the plot. Melanie Griffith plays Tess, an ambitious secretary from Staten Island who takes over her new boss's role when the boss is laid up with the broken leg. The boss is played with the perfect amount of camaraderie and superiority by Sigourney Weaver. Tess has been going to business night school, pitches a profitable idea only to have Sigourney Weaver attempt to take credit. Oh, and Harrison Ford's in the movie too. He wasn't in the synopsis online. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, this was a Fox movie when I was working there. I was in the publicity department, and this was a New York movie. Mike Nichols directed it. So we had the press junket in New York. Do I have to explain what a press junket is?
Yes.
You do? Okay. So what happens is, because these big stars are not going to go to Podunk, Ohio to meet the local film critic guy. So they fly all of them into New York for one long weekend. So Friday night, all the radio and TV people see the movie. Then Saturday, all day long, they interview the celebrities. So in this case, we had Harrison Ford, Sigourney Weaver, Melanie Griffith, Mike Nichols, were all, and each one of them would get a little separate room, and then each TV would get a 5-minute segment to go in, talk, ask their questions, get their little videotape when they leave, and then they could splice all of that into pieces they could show on their local.
Frank, do critics and reporters from other states come in for this?
Yeah, they fly them in from all over the country.
Wow, okay.
And then on Saturday night, all of the print people would go see the movie. And then on Sunday, they would do these round tables. So there would be like 10 journalists sitting at a table with Mike Nichols. And they would get 45 minutes and they would take turns asking questions and recording all of that. And then they could write all their little pieces. So that was a way to get all this press and not have them have to go tour the country.
And what was your job?
What was my job? On this particular one, I was just in the office. So we would rent out this hotel, and we'd have this office, and all the journalists would be like, oh, where do I go? What am I doing? When am I interviewing? So they would get schedules, all of that. I would make sure they get on the buses, all of that. So I was really a lowly, really nothing. So just helping with logistics. But every once in a while, I would get a chance to go and sit in the room and listen to Harrison Ford tell all of his stories. And as each person would come in, and Harrison Ford was the boringest interview in the whole world. He would give like one-word answers. It's so annoying. So then I took it upon myself. When I heard an interesting story, I would say to the next reporter, oh, he told a great story about blah, blah, blah. So then they would ask him about it, and then they get a more interesting tidbit. That makes sense? Okay. Sigourney Weaver was such a movie star. Oh my God. I mean, she was Sigourney Weaver, and she had just, Gorillas in the Mist and Aliens. She was a movie star. And true to movie star form, she was very sweet and everything, but she had a dog with her, and she had her dog in the suite. And J. Roy Helen was the hair and makeup on this. He's a pretty famous hair and makeup guy, but he was, I guess, friends with Sigourney Weaver. So every once in a while, he would take the dog downstairs to pee. I'm like, okay, that's why he's here. Okay. Melanie
Amy-
Griffith, what?
Amy, were you saying something before?
Just now, Mark, you and maybe Anne, if you didn't know about junkets either, can imagine what these celebrities go through, spending 8-10 hours
Yeah.
answering the same question all day long.
Yeah, honestly, I had
You
obviously
would have
heard.
never thought that.
I had heard of that before, but I didn't know exactly what it was. So thank you for explaining. Yeah, because I did not know exactly what a press junket was.
Okay, so then,
Like they get paid.
but so much fun, really so much fun. The whole weekend, we get to stay in the hotel and go to dinners and lunches. It was a lot of fun, of course. Then Melanie Griffith had just gotten out of treatment, treatment. And
She had allergies.
yes, she had allergies, yes. And she, unbeknownst to the general world, she had started seeing her ex-husband, Don Johnson, again. And so she said, I heard her say to the publicist who was in with her, if Don calls, I have to take the call. And I was like, hello, page 6?
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
All right. The other funny thing from the junket was Friday night when we saw the movie, and for some of us the first time, Carly Simon came to that screening. And she came in at the last minute and she sat in the last row. And I love Carly Simon. Love Carly Simon. And when the music started playing, she turns back to the projectionist, who she assumed was watching her, of course, and kept going like this to make the music louder. I'm like, yeah, I don't think anybody's seeing that, Carly, but okay. But the movie version of the song is actually very different from the one that was released as a single. The
Yeah,
movie
the single
version,
is much better. Much
movie
more
version-
Carly.
yeah, the movie version sounds much more like a chorusy thing, but yes, the single version. Okay, so this was a big movie for us, nominated for Best Picture. It was a big box office hit, so everybody was happy about the movie. So it was very fun, and I had seen it more than a few times because we had so many screenings. Because when it's a great movie, you want word of mouth to get out and all that. So, and I'm happy to say I haven't seen it since 1988, but I'm happy to say I still love this movie. So many quotes we would say around the office. It was such, again, such a New York movie, like $6,000, and it's not even leather. We use that line all the time. And I have a head for business, and a body for sin. I use that line once or twice. But and we have these little buttons. Do you remember getting one of these, Aim? And it said, there's more to life than just smiling, filing, and dialing.
I don't think so. I don't remember.
All those secretaries out there.
You definitely got me into a screening, but I don't remember if you got me
Yeah.
into which bookie.
Okay. So anyway, Melanie Griffith is so watchable. There's a kind of Marilyn Monroe-esque thing going on there for me. She got an Oscar nomination, the only one she ever got. And really, her career never really panned out. But a whole 35 minutes till we see Harrison Ford. And I think it said somewhere that this was his first really romantic comedy kind of thing. But so much when he said, I love you, I wanted her to say, I know.
Oh my God.
All right. And there was so many cute and clever moments, like when she goes to the meeting pretending to be an executive, and he says, coffee, and she gets up to go get it, and then she was like, oh no, wait, they're asking me.
I have that in my notes. I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And Joan Cusack, beyond adorable. How she did not win an Oscar, I have no idea, because she is so perfect. And when Harrison Ford turns up at the office and she has to act like the secretary, that was her Oscar nomination scene right there. And Harrison Ford too, so adorable. How could you not fall in love with him?
He was at his height of beauty in this movie.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
And
God.
of course we get a different story about the scar.
Yeah.
I heard that was the real story. No,
No, that's not the real story. The real story is I think he was in college or something and he just ran his car into a pole. Well,
has he ever actually said that in a movie?
no,
Wow.
but that is the real story.
Okay.
But here's the other thing that's really funny is that because we saw the movie before the final print, so there were scenes that never made it to the movie, and even in the trailer, there's some scenes that never made it to the movie. But I guess they were editing it right down to the middle, but right down to the end. So then there's this one scene when they're in the bathroom and she's in the bathroom talking to the bride, and I don't know why I noticed it this time, but there's a lady in the stall, and the just as the bride goes to leave, I see the lady in the stall getting up to the door and getting ready to open it. So, oh my God, this poor extra had a line or had a look or something, and she got cut out of the movie. She thought, oh my God, this is going to be my big moment. We filmed this great scene and I'm in it. And beep.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting that they showed her. Like,
You saw her feet and then
Yeah.
nothing happened.
Yep.
So it's funny. Okay. And then I did that. Okay. And so many recognizable faces. Oh my God. And this said it was David Duchovny's film debut. I mean, I don't even think I saw him wherever he was.
Yeah.
It says he was one of the guests hiding in the bathroom at Tessa's surprise birthday party, as is Billy Baldwin. And Sam Waterston's an extra in this movie. That's so
Wow.
fun. So, but I definitely remember too the whole process because the movie was produced by Lawrence Mark, and Lawrence Mark was a producer. He had his offices at Fox in California, but I was like his New York something or other. Like I would always have to call and get him tickets for shows and stuff.
you always used to call him Larry Mark. I remember that.
Yeah, Larry Mark, Lawrence Mark. Sorry. So I was his New York liaison for some reason. I don't know why. And but when things were going on, like negotiations and stuff, his secretary, her name was Petra, would contact me and say, we need this to go here or there or whatever. And there was a whole big thing about how, Mike Nichols really wanted Melanie Griffith, and the studio were a little worried about her because of the abuse. And he also wanted Alec Baldwin to play the part that eventually went to Harrison Ford. And the
Yeah.
studio was very much like, no, we can't have two nobodies in the movie. We got Sigourney Weaver. So that's how they ended up with Harrison Ford. But look at Alec Baldwin taking this little part. I'm like, you go, boy. All right. So then the big twist comes and she conveniently hears the recording that Catherine hasn't been honest with her. She sees the
Why would she record that?
Yeah.
That was just silly.
It was convenient.
Yeah.
And then Tess goes around cleaning up Catherine's apartment when she comes back, right? She's coming back. And this is me every single time Anthony goes on a business trip. Yes, now you are allowed to picture me vacuuming in the nude. I'll wait.
Well, in your panties.
Doesn't everyone? Hello. And those things were like, wah, wah,
You're still not Madonna though, Frank.
I'm no Madonna. And then twist number 2, maybe Sigourney Weaver's not a bitch after all. Or is she? And one thing made me laugh out loud. I know it's silly, but when Harrison Ford and Melanie Griffith both together said bony ass,
Yeah.
I had an actual laugh aloud. And the lunchbox, so adorable. And I got so caught up in the movie, I really didn't take a lot of notes. And then, of course, when Tess gets to her new office and she calls Sin, Joan Cusack, she only dialed 7 numbers. Come on. We know if you work in an office in New York, you have to dial 9 to get out.
Dial 9 to get out.
Exactly. And and then Miss Baxter and Miss Baxter, of course, we know Amy Aquino. How do we not? We know her very well. She's Miss Baxter, Tessa's secretary. And she tells her she has a a lunch with Mr. Trask at 1 o'clock at his office downtown. But when the camera zooms out, hello, she's downtown. She's right there.
Danielle yelled that out as we were watching it. She's already downtown.
Downtown. How much further could he be downtown? In the water?
Maybe that's the name of the restaurant they're meeting at.
Oh, office downtown. All right. But the perfect ending. Seriously, a beautiful Cinderella story. 3.5 stars for me. It's a little 1980s for sure, but it's so well written and well directed. I love this movie. Thank you, Annie, for making me watching it
Hey.
30 years later, 40, 20, whatever. How many years later? It was fun. All right, Mark G, you have a picture up, so that means something.
I do. There's a story behind this because
okay.
back
Do you
in
know
late-
do you know one of these 4 girls?
No. But this is the movie that we watched. Back in the late 80s, my parents, my brother, and I was 13 when this movie came out. So when it came out on video, I was 13, 14, and we would have movie night. We'd have pizza night and then movie night. We watched a family movie together. It was very nice. And this was obviously a big name. We had not seen it in the theater. So my dad went out to go get it at the local video store like Joel used to have before Blockbuster took over. So we throw it in and something isn't right. And my mom was like, Walter, stop the movie. Stop the movie. What did you do? And my dad was like, I got the movie. So he went in, he looked in, and the movie was Working Girls.
Plural.
A 1986 movie, 2 years before, about prostitutes that we almost watched. So, of course, me being 13, my brother being 15 or 16, we're like, well, let's just watch this anyway. But my mom said no. But we did watch it the next day. And then we finally watched this movie a few weeks later. But I had no memory. I'd seen this movie once, 35, 36 years ago. So it's funny because I kind of remembered the plot, but like the part when Sigourney Weaver toward the end, was she good? I didn't remember enough. I had certain things. And yes, I've got a mind for business and a bod for sin. That I definitely remember, but I didn't remember it until she said it. And then I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. That 80s hair, especially Joan Cusack. Oh my God. I mean, I
And the
assume that.
makeup.
And the makeup, yeah.
makeup,
But
yeah.
the hair, the two of them with the hair, I mean, it was like, I mean, that was way up there.
I have to say, it's not exaggerated. That is really what the look was.
Yeah, agreed.
Not for Amy Goldman, of course, but
Not with my Jew fro.
but for a lot of girls have that.
You guys already kind of mentioned it. I would say the Harrison Ford looked slightly better than me at 46 years old. And I liked the movie for the most part. I thought it was the very smart writing, like you said before about the coffee when she got up to go get it. I don't have any other notes other than something else you said. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed. It was 3.25 for me, and thank you, Amy, because it was nice to see this again for the first time, like Amy.
Right, Amy doesn't even remember seeing this movie.
I do too.
Joel, any connections to Working Girl?
No. None at all.
You didn't see the porno movie Working Girls?
R rated.
Yes, I'm well aware. There's actually, and I'd have to look and see because I don't remember the year.
1974.
There's another, no, which the porno version or the
No, just another The Working Girls.
yeah, that's the Lizzie Borden film that's part of the Criterion Collection.
Cassandra Peterson.
So anyway, it's I like the movie. I've seen it a few times over the years. I hadn't seen it in it's not like I hadn't seen it since 1988, but you know, I probably haven't seen it in a good 25 years maybe. It still stands up for the most part. It's still relevant, unfortunately, in certain ways. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about it. It's, you know, it's a good movie. 3.25.
All right. Aim, do you remember going to the screening? Was that like one of the first screenings I sent you tickets for?
It must have been.
Yeah.
I would think so. Because you hadn't
Well,
been.
I started in 85, so
85.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
It was
So-
a big deal. It was really a big
I
deal.
remember it being a huge movie, this movie.
Yeah.
In at least in your Fox world. I mean, I guess it was in the real world too, but it was very important when we were talking about it, in my memory.
And where were you in 1988?
I was just ending up, I guess, because I went from Simon and Schuster to Fox. So I was still
Right.
at Schuster,
Yeah. Testing
Um,
your Star Trek games.
testing Star Trek games. So of course I liked it then. I liked it now. There was some ridiculousness for the sake of being ridiculous. Like when she went into the bathroom to talk to her boss, nobody would do that. Or when she was serving the dim sum, that would have never, I can't imagine that.
Oh
happening.
my God, that definitely happened.
The dim
Definitely
sum part, yes.
Oh
The
my God.
secretary would serve the
Yes,
food after they
yes.
hired
Definitely
people.
when I started, getting coffee was definitely part of my job for people.
Sure, getting
When we had
coffee.
executives visiting. And if something had to going to get their dry cleaning, you did
I
it.
completely get that, but not when you're having a party and you're hiring people. You're going to have the secretary do the serving at a party.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't have human resource departments back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell
Speaking
another
of
story. I'll
which,
tell another story when we're done.
okay, don't forget human resources.
Okay.
Speaking of which, human resources, they were this movie is dated not in the way that I disagree when you all say something is dated because the computers are old or they don't have cell
Right.
phones, and every movie is dated.
Right.
But it was so dated in the way women were treated. It was painful. Even in the hospital, the orderly was touching her, and it was just like some of that was brutal. So I'm glad we're kind of past that.
Yeah.
In
Huh?
some aspects, yes.
Yeah, not in all, of course.
Right.
And I said to Frank in a text yesterday, and he vehemently disagreed that I can't imagine anybody walking into somebody's apartment and seeing a tape recorder and just hitting play and rummaging through all their stuff and finding the moment. And yes, I understand, Frank. Of course, for the sake of editing, you're not going to have her sit and go, of course.
Do
But
that again. That's beautiful.
there was
But that's exactly why she has to go and just do it because
yes, she has to. And there were a lot of moments in this movie where I thought, well, of course they have to do that to set this up. And just some of
Right,
it seemed
move
all too
things
pat
along.
to me and
Right.
a little,
You saying it's a little lazy.
it was lazy writing, as Deadpool would say. And as you said already, I wrote down, I loved when Jack Trainer said to her coffee and she said, sure. And she got up to get it. Love that. Just like at the end when she thinks the secretary is her boss. And it's,
Yeah.
that was so great. I so remember that moment. Just like,
wait, and you're not questioning why she would go to work and not even know what job she had or have to sign a letter or anything?
no,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
Nah.
Of course. But it was a great scene. But of course, that was ridiculous. So many fun, famous lines that all came back to me. Said just when she said to him, just as the doors were closing, just like in Star Wars, maybe I just don't like you. And he said, me? Nah. So remember that great line. And when Joan Cusack says, holds all calls, Miss McGill. And finally, when Sigourney raises her crutch and says, this woman is my secretary. These lines were just so ingrained in me for some reason. And finally, I love the line, and no paying the Con Ed with it. Like anybody outside New York would know what that line even means. But it's just great
But
that he's
perfect.
brilliant.
Perfect.
So
And
perfect.
that woman who says no paying the Con Ed for me is on Mrs. Maisel. She's
Oh, really?
Joel's mother.
Oh, funny.
Maisel now. I was like, oh my God, why do I know this voice? And I had no idea who she was.
Yeah.
And I looked her up and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my
Oh,
gosh.
that's great.
35 years later, she got another job.
Yeah. Finally.
She went from 5-line extra to
10-line superstar.
supporting line. Yeah.
So it was just great that they didn't write and no paying the electric bill. Just so great with Con Ed.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm kind of waffling back and forth, 3 1/4, 3 1/2. I'm going to go 3 1/4.
Okay, Annie. So you had seen it in 1988.
Yeah, and I've seen it
And
throughout
not
the
since
years.
then?
No, I've seen it throughout the years. When it comes
Okay.
on, we like to see it. And yeah, so many great lines. One of my favorite is I am not steak, you can't order me. I love that line. I think that's so great. I don't know if any of you have ever seen 50 Shades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. But
So-
Dakota, right, is Melanie's daughter.
Right. So as she got promoted and the woman is like saying, maybe we should, lay down the ground rules. And she says the same speech I
Oh, how
expect you to call me Anna. I don't expect you to get me coffee. And I don't know how many people recognize that, but
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
great.
that's the same
Oh,
speech.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah, it was just very funny. Yeah. So yeah, it's just fun. And you know, definitely what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in the city. I wanted to carry a briefcase and have a corner office, you know. So none of that ever happened. And I'm very happy with what I did. So, but that was the dream, right? When you graduated, to work in the city. And
Right.
yeah, so it's always fun to me.
Even though it took an hour and a half to get there.
Yeah.
From Fresh Meadows, yes.
Fresh Meadows. When we moved to Connecticut,
Yeah.
it took the same hour and a half to get to
Wow.
the city.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was just part of, you know, commuting, taking the subway instead
Yeah.
of the ferry. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Definitely.
And I did work down on 48th and 5th, you know, so it was
I was
cool.
on 57th between 5th and 6th.
40 West 57.
Westchester.
Yeah, so
Joel
it's
never had a job.
Exactly. Never had a job.
Well, not an office job.
That's not entirely true, but okay.
Really?
I had an office in my store. I had to be there.
Oh, that doesn't count. That's not a corporate office thing.
He's an entrepreneur.
I actually worked.
That's right. You were an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. I worked for my dad and uncle for a while doing their books. So yes,
Again, not a
Cooking the
corporate-
books, did you say?
Yes, cooking the book. I hope the IRS is listening right now.
they know all about it.
Statute of limitations over yet?
No.
Yes.
and the last thing is, like you said, such a New York movie with the World Trade Towers and the Staten Island Ferry and stuff. I love
was-
New York movies.
I was waiting for the shot of the towers, and
Oh,
it took
yeah, you
about
knew
3
that was
minutes,
coming
whatever. It
when
was
they
like
came.
doing it. There it is. Yep.
Yeah, and I think they were all great. Alec Baldwin, Joan Cusack was fantastic. Sigourney Weaver was, you know, perfect for that. It was.
I
all
had
of
to
it.
look. I had to look up how old Joan Cusack was, because 4 years earlier she was in 16 Candles playing like a 15-year-old, and here she's a full woman. And I think she was like 21 and 23 in 16 Candles, which is
Ah.
great. If you look back at it, she's got like a crazy like mouth guard or whatever.
Yep.
She's 23-year-old. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun for me. 3.5 for me.
Oh, we
I
got a full house.
I also very much appreciated all the chest fur that Alec Baldwin had, because you would never see that today. I was
Yeah.
like, ah, chest fur.
Yeah.
Yeah, the padded shoulder jackets and yeah.
Yeah.
Very 80s.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, very much a New York movie. And you know, Mike Nichols obviously lived in New York, so he
What else has he
had
done?
the love. Oh my
Nothing.
God.
He's done nothing.
Okay.
Hack.
He's quite the superstar in the film world. He's married to Diane Sawyer.
When did he graduate from?
Yes, he
NYU.
directed The Graduate.
Did The Graduate, Mark?
Okay.
A Graduate, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. He's done a lot of Broadway stuff. I've just watched Spam-A-Lot, and he directed Spam-A-Lot
Yeah.
for Broadway. Okay, well, good. I'm glad we all liked it. It really is a lovely movie. Definitely a nice way to pass a morning at my computer. Working Girls on Hulu, so you can watch it too. Next week, to keep us current, which I feel is my job, I selected Hitman from 2024. That's only on Netflix, so you can watch it there. And Glenn Powell, right? Where? Okay.
Good. I got a free week because I watched that like 3 weeks ago.
Sweet.
I think that's too long ago. You need to make notes.
Wasn't that good?
Frank, what was the story you wanted to come back to when we said
No, that's not a story for public consumption. Thank you. Hi, Frank Gaffney. Watch this movie.
From public consumption with HR.